Come closer. The shadows have missed you, and tonight they have a new story to tell. Welcome to Scary Stories After Dark. Damien's face slammed against the desk with a wet crack, and when he opened his eyes, the sky was on fire. No, seriously, it wasn't a metaphor. The entire sky outside the floor-to-ceiling window glowed orange-red like the surface of a burning planet, streaked with smoke trails and ash clouds that bled across a bloody sun, pulsing like a migraine behind glass. The air felt thick and electric. His lips were dry. His skin itched. He was sweating through a cheap office shirt he didn't remember putting on, and something was holding his arms down. He looked down slowly. Chains, blackened, smoking chains, attached not to cuffs, but to a pair of charred skeletal hands that gripped his forearms, embedded into the desk like they'd grown there. The desk, by the way, wasn't wood. It looked like melted obsidian with veins of glowing lava pulsing through it. The hands twitched. He screamed. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," said a voice, casual and gravelly, like someone halfway through their third espresso. Damien turned his head and immediately wished he hadn't. Standing beside his desk was a 7-foot-tall demon with the head of a triceratops, 2 jagged horns like devil antlers, and a cracked beak smirking around a coffee cup that read, "Hellcorp, damned if you don't." He wore a slightly wrinkled navy business suit with a crooked tie and a glowing name badge that read, "Gary, Sales, Infernal Division." Damien blinked. Sweat dripped from his temple. What the hell is... He looked around wildly. Endless rows of cubicles lined with horned, red-skinned, slime-dripping creatures. Some had wings, some had tails. One had no face and just kept typing. Ash rained outside the windows like snow in Hell's version of a Hallmark Christmas. Gary raised an eyebrow, or he would have if he had eyebrows. "You okay, Damien? You look like someone dragged you through the 5th circle backwards." Damien's voice cracked. "Where am I?" Gary tilted his head. Work? "I'm what?" "You're at work. It's Monday, buddy. Big meeting with Beelzebub this afternoon." He slurped from his mug. "Better bring your pitchfork." "This is a dream," Damien muttered. "This is a horrible, sweaty, flaming, HR-infested dream." Gary chuckled. "Still got that weird sense of humor, huh?" The skeletal hands released him with a soft creak. He stumbled back from the desk, nearly falling over his ergonomic chair, which had teeth. He scanned the cubicle, the blood-colored lights, the blinking monitors, the hellish Excel sheets full of names, numbers, and screams. There was even a dusty motivational poster above his desk that read, "Every torture counts." I don't belong here," he whispered. Gary narrowed his glowing yellow eyes. "You've worked here for decades. You're employee of the damn month, like 3 millennia in a row." "No, I live in Cleveland. I'm a designer. I had a cat and an ex who hated my guts, and... He froze. The last thing he remembered was falling asleep at his apartment. After rewatching The Shining for the 100th time with his best friend Courtney, they'd made fun of the hedge maze. She'd eaten all the popcorn. Where was she? He grabbed Gary's lapels. "How did I get here?" Gary blinked. "Whoa there, Tiger. That's more of an HR thing. You want to fill out a portal request form? Might take a century to process, but..." A deafening screech echoed through the building. Every demon froze. Lights flickered. The air trembled. Gary's face went pale. "Oh no," he whispered. "He's here." "Who's he?" Damien breathed. "Mr. Beelzebub." Damien barely had time to scream as the overhead lights burst and the office intercom growled to life with a voice that sounded like a blender full of gravel. Damien, report to floor 666 immediately. The cubicle walls shivered. Gary patted his shoulder gently. Well, good luck, buddy. Don't forget to bow, and don't look him directly in the eyes, or the mouths, actually, just don't look at all. Damien looked up at the ceiling, eyes wide, sweat clinging to him like oil. He wasn't dreaming. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't dead. He'd woken up in hell, and somehow they all thought he was supposed to be here. Damien didn't walk to floor 666. He was dragged there by a literal elevator made of screaming souls. It yanked him down like a stone dropped into fire. The interior was made of pulsing flesh. The buttons hissed when he touched them, and every time the floor changed, a different damned voice whispered into his ear, "You don't belong here." Thanks. Helpful. When the doors screeched open, a massive hallway stretched ahead, lined with molten gold doors and gargoyle statues that looked like they could blink. The air was even hotter down here. It smelled like burnt pennies and something uncomfortably close to wet dog. At the end of the corridor stood a set of obsidian double doors, each carved with nightmarish faces that shifted if you stared too long. He didn't make it 3 steps before a deep voice slithered into his ear. "Turn back and die slower." "Cool," Damien muttered. "Super welcoming." The doors groaned open. He took a single step inside and found himself in a boardroom bigger than a stadium, ringed by flickering torches made of writhing arms and a floor made of polished bones. The conference table stretched the length of a football field, and at the far end, hidden behind layers of smoke and shadow, something sat, hulking, horned, and massive. Mr. Beelzebos. He wasn't visible, not fully, just hints of cloven hooves, a mane of fire, and an aura so suffocating it made Damien feel like he was drowning in molten anxiety. "You have been assigned to the Torture Innovation Department," the voice boomed, shaking the entire tower. "Report to floor 13 immediately." The smoke collapsed inward, a flash of red, a choking silence. The doors slammed shut behind him. When the elevator opened again, it was somehow worse. This floor was painted in pastel colors, with pop music playing softly from invisible speakers. Demonic interns in oversized cardigans typed furiously on keyboards made from vertebrae. The carpet was flesh, literal flesh. He was shoved into a training room and handed a notebook that bled when he opened it. He sat, and that's when he heard it. A voice, a real human voice. "Honestly, if the vending machine tries to bite me one more time, I'm feeding it Gary's lunch." Damien froze. That voice. He stood, turned, and nearly passed out. Courtney. Same messy black hair, same sarcastic smirk. Except she wore a crimson button-down, had tiny black horns poking through her scalp, and a badge that read, "Courtney, Torture Scheduling Department." He gawked. Court. She looked up from her clipboard and blinked. "Oh my God. You're here too?" They stared at each other, and then, simultaneously, "This is worse than Hellraiser 2. No, this is like if Clive Barker directed The Office. God, I wish this was just a cursed VHS tape." They hugged, awkward and relieved and terrified. Damien pulled back, wide-eyed. "What happened? Last I remember, we were watching The Shining. You passed out in the middle of Jack's axe scene, lightweight." She looked around. "Then I woke up here, same as you." A pause. Then she frowned, and they promoted me. They decided to get lunch, because apparently, even in hell, you still needed to clock out. The cafeteria was a multi-level lava-lit pit filled with screaming fire goblins, floating trays, and food that hissed, slithered, or tried to escape. Today's special was soles au jus and screech fries. Courtney grabbed a tray. Nothing's gluten-free, which, honestly, tracks. Damien pointed to a pizza that blinked. That one's definitely looking at me. I had worse at my freshman dorm. They sat at a crooked smoking table near the back. Damien leaned in, eyes haunted. Court, this isn't a hallucination. This is real. I'm not supposed to be here. I think someone did this to us. Courtney chewed her scream fry. You think? Then her face darkened. I think I know who. Damien's blood ran cold. Erica. His ex, the one who hexed his PS2, the one who jokingly made a voodoo doll of him, the one who said she'd see him burn if she couldn't have him. Damien swallowed. You think she... Courtney nodded grimly. I found a note in my pocket when I woke up. It just said, "Enjoy the flames, bitch," written in glitter ink, her glitter ink. The cafeteria lights dimmed. Somewhere, a demonic espresso machine shrieked. They stared at each other. I think we're trapped, she whispered, and I think she sold her soul to make it happen. Damien clenched his fists. So what do we do? Courtney's eyes gleamed. We find a way out. As they walk back to the elevator, shadows shift. A nearby printer grows legs and scuttles away. A fire alarm winks. In the corner of the ceiling, a black winged figure watches them. Its mouth is stitched shut. Its eyes glow with hunger. The elevator dings, and behind them, a demonic coworker whispers. They never escape, you know, especially the ones who think they don't belong. Damien and Courtney step inside. The elevator had no music, just a low, mechanical hum like a breathing machine in the middle of a nightmare. Damien and Courtney stood side by side, their trays still sticky with cafeteria slime, staring at the infinite buttons, each labeled in a language that looked like someone had angrily smashed a typewriter with hooves. Courtney tilted her head. These buttons are definitely judging me. Same, I swear one of them just blinked. They scanned the panel. The normal floors were there. Compliance, disembowelment R&D, soul extraction, marketing. But nestled between floor 65 and floor 67, something strange hovered. There was no 66. Instead, there was a tiny twitching slit of light. I don't like that, Damien said. I love that, Courtney replied, already reaching out. Wait. Too late. She pressed it. The panel glitched. All the buttons lit up, then flickered out. The elevator shook violently. Something in the ceiling groaned. The walls stretched as if they were breathing in reverse. And then silence. The floor read 66.6. Oh, that's cute, Courtney muttered. The doors peeled open like dead skin. Cold air rushed in, a total opposite of the rest of Hellcorp's scorching inferno. It smelled like dust, mildew, and old library books bound in regret. They stepped out into a massive hallway made of black stone, flickering candlelight hanging in the air without strings or flame holders. Rows and rows of massive file cabinets stretched into darkness, some open and groaning like they just exhaled. I feel like we're about to uncover a government conspiracy, Damien whispered. Or stumble into a Clive Barker fan convention. Courtney grabbed a file at random. It burned her hand. She dropped it. The folder burst into a swarm of locusts and vanished. They froze. Click. A light blinked on overhead, then another, then a dozen more, snapping to life down the corridor like dominoes. At the end of the hallway stood a mirror. Damien stepped forward. Court, you seeing this? Courtney squinted. Is it me? They approached. It wasn't just a mirror, it was a screen. A cursed, flickering CRT monitor embedded in the wall. On it played a looped video, a recording of Damien and Courtney sitting in their apartment, eating popcorn, watching The Shining, laughing, joking, harmless. Then, on the screen, the lights flickered, and behind them, just briefly, a figure, a woman, back turned, face obscured, long dark hair covering her body like a veil. Courtney paled. Is that Erica? The screen crackled, shifted, a new video played. This time it was Damien, sitting alone at his computer, bleary-eyed, a voice whispering through his headphones. Would you sell your soul for a better life? And he'd laughed. He didn't even remember that, but the screen didn't lie. Would you burn in her place? Courtney turned away. This place is showing us our regrets. Damien's throat was dry, or worse, our traps. They ran. The hallway twisted, doors blinked out of existence, the air grew thick. At the far end of the floor, they stumbled into an old-fashioned copy room. Only this one had walls lined with moving paper, like white insects fluttering against the glass. Courtney laughed nervously. I used to work in a place like this, minus the human-sized fax machine trying to breathe. They approached the copier. It was dripping, not ink, blood. Buzz! It spat out a page. Damien grabbed it, hands shaking. It was a form. Exit request form denied. Then another page. You can check out, but you can never leave. Then one more. A photo of them, standing here, in this room, in this moment, looking up. They both whipped around. Nothing. Then they looked back down. The copier was gone. Okay, this is not funny anymore, Damien said, pacing. This place is inside our heads. Courtney nodded. It's built from them. It's like someone custom made this floor for us. Damien stopped. What if this wasn't an accident? She blinked. You think? What if Hellcorp didn't just trap us here? What if it's been watching us for years, studying us, preparing for us? Courtney's voice dropped to a whisper, like we were handpicked. Suddenly the candlelight snuffed out. A shadow loomed at the far end of the hallway, the woman from the screen. Erica, but her limbs were wrong. Too long, too jointed. Her mouth opened unnaturally wide, but her face was still turned away. Then, you were mine, she hissed, and now you're his. Her head snapped all the way backward, revealing a skull dripping with molten wax, her eyes hollowed out and glowing with Hellcorp red. Courtney grabbed Damien's arm. Run! They tore through the corridor, the hallway shifting like flesh under their feet. Screams echoed from inside the walls. They reached the elevator just as Erica's arm stretched out behind them, fingers tipped in rusted office staples. Damien slammed the button. Ding! The elevator opened. They dove in. The doors closed. The lights went out. A whisper slithered through the darkness. This isn't the way out. This is the way deeper. The elevator screen blinked, now descending sub-level infinity. The elevator didn't move. It descended. Not like falling, not fast, not slow, just endless. The digital screen above the door blinked once, then again. Then the numbers vanished and were replaced by a single symbol: infinity. Damien leaned against the wall, his face pale with sweat. The air was growing warmer, sticky, electric, heavy, like a furnace slowly inhaling. Courtney clutched the elevator rail, her knuckles white. If this thing drops us into a Saw movie, I swear I'm biting someone. Damien gave a hollow laugh. What, like Jigsaw HR edition? I'd honestly prefer that over another cursed copy machine. Ding, the doors creaked open. They stepped out into a room of endless silence. No lights, no fire. Just cold obsidian stone and a void that hummed with presence. The air was impossibly still. It didn't just lack warmth, it lacked time. The ceiling stretched into black nothingness. The walls were covered in moving shadows, like memories struggling to stay forgotten. There was only one thing in the center of the room, a glass conference table, cracked and scorched, with a single chair at its head. And on that chair, something sat. Damien's body locked up. Every hair on his body stood straight, his vision blurred at the edges. The thing in the chair radiated so much power it felt like he was being compressed. The shape was barely visible, a shifting silhouette made of horns, smoke, flame, and eyes that blinked out of sync. It had no true form, only the idea of something ancient and wrathful, held together by corporate spite. Then a voice spoke, low and deep, like God's voice played backward through a fax machine. Damien, Courtney, sit. They did, not because they wanted to, because they had to, like gravity had changed its rules just for them. The devil, Mr. Beelzebub, lifted a black leather folder from thin air and placed it on the table. Let's review your progress. He opened the folder. Inside were pages of their lives, every mistake, every betrayal, every fear they'd whispered into the dark when they thought they were alone. Damien's stomach turned. Courtney's name was written in blood on the corner. The devil tapped the file. Courtney missed 5 therapy appointments, lied about quitting smoking, secretly resents Damien for abandoning his dream. She froze. Damien turned to her, eyes wide. Courtney. Beelzebub flipped the page. Damien sabotaged a coworker's promotion, blamed Courtney for his breakup, let his cat die alone while playing Silent Hill 2. A beat. I didn't. You did nothing, the devil said, his voice now inside their heads. You don't sin in a moment. You sin in your silence. The room grew darker, the air heavier. The shadows on the walls whispered in voices that sounded like them, but twisted, broken, bleeding with guilt. Beelzebub snapped the folder shut. You don't work here because you were damned, Damien. You work here because you were chosen. Erica merely opened the door, but you were already walking toward it. Damien felt hollow. Courtney looked like she might break. You're wrong, she whispered. Beelzebub leaned forward. Prove it. The devil raised one hand. From the air, a glowing contract shimmered into view, etched in fire, written in ancient legalese so dark it made the walls groan. You want out? Fine, I'll give you both one chance. Find the door of ash, open it before the blood moon sets, survive the reorg. Do that, and you may earn your exit. Fail, and you become permanent employees. Damien looked up. And Erica? She's already middle management. A chorus of demonic laughter echoed all around them. Courtney stood. We'll find it. Oh, I'm counting on it, the devil purred. As they turned to leave, the devil whispered, "The door of ash only appears to those ready to burn." The elevator returned, but now it was melting at the edges. Every floor they passed dripped fire, revealing in-between floors that didn't exist on the map. Screaming archives, data of the damned, break room cursed. Courtney turned to Damien. "You okay?" He didn't answer because something was burning into his forearm. He looked down, a sigil, glowing, etched into his skin like a brand. She gasped. "Oh my God, they marked you." He stared at her, sweat clinging to his brow. "No, they marked both of us." The elevator wheezed like it was dying. Damien and Courtney stood shoulder to shoulder, barely breathing, their glowing brands still seared into their forearms. His burned like hot wire. Hers pulsed faintly like a heartbeat in hellfire. "You think he was serious?" Damien asked. Courtney scoffed. "The devil doesn't do stand-up, D." The doors creaked open. They stepped out onto floor 9, office supplies and soul storage. It looked empty, too empty, until the lights began to flicker and the sound of slow, dragging footsteps echoed from the far hallway. They came from the cubicles first, once human, now twisted, dressed in blood-soaked button-downs, their faces sagging like melted wax, keyboards embedded in their torsos, eyes glowing red with copy toner ink. They didn't moan, they groaned in printer errors. Out of paper, work through lunch. Did not reply. All. Damien gagged. "This is worse than that time Erica made me watch The Human Centipede at 2 a.m. Courtney backpedaled as one of the zombie clerks slammed against a cubicle wall, leaving a smear of sticky ink. "Okay, new plan. Find fire. Burn everything." Damien pointed to a nearby emergency office kit. They opened it. Inside, a flamethrower stapler, a shredder blade, and a bottle labeled "Liquid Lunch. Warning, may contain souls." Courtney grabbed the stapler and grinned. "We're unionizing, B." After an office supply-fueled sprint through the department, involving a very intense battle with a sentient paperclip named Clippy the Damned, they finally reached safety, maintenance level 6.66, a rarely used subfloor where the walls dripped condensation and the vents breathed louder than the air conditioning. It was there, surrounded by leaking pipes and weird, demonic graffiti that they found Gary. Yup, Gary the Tricerademon was hiding behind a boiler. "Damien! Courtney!" he hissed. "What are you two doing down here? This floor's off limits." Courtney sat on an overturned toolbox. "Got promoted to screwed. You?" Gary sighed, sipping from his ever-present coffee cup. "I was demoted for not clapping fast enough during Beelzebub's last all-hands meeting." Damien dropped beside him. "Gary, we're trying to escape. We found out about the door of ash. We have until the blood moon sets." Gary choked on his drink. "The door of shh, you can't say that down here. The walls, listen." Courtney narrowed her eyes. "Then help us." Gary hesitated, his horns dimmed a little. Finally, he sighed. "Okay, but if anyone asks, I'm on my lunch break." Gary unfolded a scorched map of Hellcorp's lower levels. Every inch was labeled with horrifying departments: propaganda and possession, cubicle labyrinth, the CEO's stomach, IT. Courtney pointed. "What's that?" Gary squinted. "That's where the door of ash is rumored to appear, but only during the blood reorg, when management reshuffles the torment hierarchy. Every demon turns on each other. Chaos, riots, full hellish battle royale. Damien blinked. And when is that? Bong, bong, bong. A deep alarm bell tolled through the building. The pipes trembled. Gary stood up slowly. Now! Sirens blared. The walls peeled back. Every floor above them erupted into screams, shifting rooms, and shadows dragging coworkers into vents. The blood reorg had begun. Gary tossed Damien a flaming clipboard. You'll need this. It's cursed. Don't ask questions. Courtney tied her demon hair back and snatched the shredder blade. Let's do this. They ran back into the inferno. Erica stood before her floor-length mirror. Her reflection smiled. She didn't. The tips of her fingers glowed with the same brand etched into Damien's arm. She traced it. You always said you'd follow me to hell, she whispered. Behind her, Mr. Beelzebub towered in shadow. Let them run, he said. They'll find the door. Erica smiled, eyes flickering with fire. And I'll be waiting on the other side. Damien's lungs burned as they ran. Ash fell from the sky like snow, coating the corridors in gray soot. Fire alarms screamed overhead. Vents bled steam, and somewhere down the hall, an intern was being devoured by a pack of possessed fax machines. Blood reorg was a effing understatement. Courtney skidded around a corner, shredder blade in hand, and ducked under a falling ceiling tile dripping hot ink. Tell me again, she shouted. Why are we sprinting toward your demonic ex-girlfriend instead of away from her? Because she's guarding the door of Ash. Oh, good. I love a cursed door protected by a soul-consuming psychopath. My favorite kind. Damien almost smiled, but it was short-lived. The hallway in front of them suddenly shifted, twisting like skin over bone, and out of the distortions stepped her. She wasn't fully Erica anymore. She stood in a hallway, glowing red from firelight, her long black hair hanging in matted clumps. Her skin glistened like wax, melting, cracked in places like porcelain over lava. Her arms were too long, ending in elegant fingers that curved into ink-stained claws. But it was her eyes, those same green eyes Damien used to know, now glowing like nuclear envy, locked directly on him. You never looked at me like that when I was alive, she said softly, voice echoing like whispers in a tomb. Courtney stepped in front of him, blade raised. Back off, paranormal homewrecker. Erica tilted her head slowly. You always were in the way. She raised her hand. The hallway behind them exploded in flame. Damien grabbed Courtney and dove sideways into a shattered conference room. They hit the floor hard. Smoke curled around them. The ceiling cracked above. Courtney coughed. Okay, so she has fire magic now. She always had fire, Damien muttered. She just used to throw coffee mugs instead. They stumbled to their feet. Erica stepped through the fire, untouched, elegant in her horror. Her heels cracked the floor with every step. Why'd you leave me, Damien? She asked, voice trembling between pain and rage. Damien stepped forward, swallowing hard. Because you scared me. She paused. I never hurt you. No, you didn't, he said, but you wanted to. And you thought love meant control. You couldn't stand me being close to anyone else, not even her. Erica's eyes darted to Courtney, and they burned brighter. She's not your soulmate. No, Damien said. She's my best friend, and you tried to take that from me. A beat of silence. Then Erica's face cracked. A giant line splitting from her cheek to her chin like a porcelain doll snapping. Her mouth opened too wide. I gave up everything to bring you here." Her voice was layered now, hers and something beneath deeper and monstrous. "I thought if you saw me become more, you'd finally choose me." Suddenly, her skin began to melt away, revealing something beneath. A skeletal figure with burning veins, her heart a pulsing ember, her voice now a chorus of bitter women, jilted souls all screaming at once. "If I can't have you, no one will. Let's burn together." She raised both hands, and the entire room was consumed in red lightning. Before the bolt could hit Damien, Courtney stepped forward, arms raised. "No." And just like that, the lightning hit her. Damien screamed, but when the smoke cleared, Courtney stood, glowing. Her brand had lit up, pulsing against her chest. The flames refused to touch her. Courtney looked down at her hands. "Guess I got promoted again." She looked up. "Erica, you're not the villain here because you're demonic. You're the villain because you thought love meant owning someone. Love is a choice, and Damien never chose you." Erica screamed, a sound so high-pitched the floor cracked beneath them. Behind Erica, something shimmered, a door, tall, made of charred bone, glowing with red runes, the door of ash. It pulsed with light, an open portal. Damien and Courtney looked at each other. "Now or never?" he asked. She smirked. "Always now." They ran toward it. Erica lunged. Courtney turned and tossed the flamethrower stapler. Boom! A wave of fire surged, throwing Erica backward into the burning rubble as the door opened. Damien and Courtney leapt through, and the world behind them collapsed. They hit cold pavement, rain, darkness. They were outside. A real street, street lights, a cat meowing nearby. Courtney sat up, soaked and coughing. "Are we back?" Damien looked around, wide-eyed. They were in front of a building, a tall skyscraper, familiar. The sign above it flickered red in the rain. Hellcorp East Coast Branch. Damien whispered, "Oh, no." Courtney looked over. The street sign read, "Welcome to Earth 2." The rain didn't feel real. It was cold, but not comforting, like static against the skin. Damien stood in the middle of the cracked sidewalk, soaked, trembling, staring up at the flickering neon sign above the skyscraper. Hellcorp, East Coast Branch. A glowing, smiley face winked beside the logo. Its teeth were fangs. Courtney stood next to him, arms crossed, hair plastered to her face. She was still holding the shredder blade, knuckles white. "This can't be Earth," she whispered. Damien stepped back and almost tripped over a laptop embedded in the pavement, its screen flashing. "Welcome back, Damien. Clock in to begin." He didn't move. The streets were too clean. No cars, no people, just empty skyscrapers blinking in the fog like dead satellites. Every billboard showed ads for Hellcorp products. "Souls saved daily. Apply now. Our torture, your growth. You're never really done." Courtney tilted her head. "Okay, this is either a Black Mirror episode or the Matrix HVAC edition." Damien's mouth was dry. "We made it through the door, but..." Her eyes widened. "What if we didn't go back?" The wind blew, and it whispered in Erica's voice. "There's more than one hell, Damien." They pushed open the front doors of the tower. It looked exactly the same. Fluorescent lights, flesh-toned carpet, vending machines that blinked. A receptionist made of wax waved and said, "Welcome to Hellcorp. Can I direct your eternal suffering?" Damien muttered, "I hate it here." Courtney whispered, "I think we're in a parallel version, a copy, like we went through a mirror instead of a door." Like we escaped hell, she said slowly, but into its franchise. At the base of the elevator, they found a black file folder labeled for Damien and Courtney. Courtney opened it. Inside was a single photo, the two of them, standing in front of the door of ash, except their eyes were glowing red. Their brands were still lit. Behind them in the photo stood Erica, smiling. Damien dropped the photo. Court. She turned. He pointed at her arm. The brand was still glowing, faint but alive. She looked at his, still burning. Slow realization crept in. The devil didn't want us to escape, Damien whispered. He wanted us to leave the tower, so we'd bring it with us. Courtney staggered back. No, we closed the door. We beat her. You opened the wrong one. The lights above them all went out. Elevators began to descend on their own. Dozens of them. From every floor, doors opening, footsteps approaching. They weren't alone. Damien and Courtney ran out of the building, the photo still clutched in Courtney's hand. Outside, the sky cracked like glass. The clouds bled ash, and above them, new towers began to rise from the earth. Black, chiseled corporate monoliths stretching toward a blood-colored moon. Hellcorp had followed them. They didn't escape. They franchised it. Damien whispered, "This isn't over, is it?" Courtney shook her head slowly. "No, Damien, it's just beginning." They turned to the street where a help wanted sign flickered outside a diner and a door opened. "Welcome to your shift.